New Orleans, there's nowhere else like it. A city alive with history, music, and mystery. The jazz spills into the streets, the scent of Creole cooking lingers in the air, and if you listen closely, you just might hear the whispers of a few thousand drunks. It's a place where voodoo legends mix with late-night debauchery, and Mardi Gras, one of the biggest parties in America. So what's it like to experience New Orleans for the first time with a crew of old friends, zero restraint, in a city that never slows down? We went all in, pushed our limits, and somehow, mostly, made it out alive. Here's your front row seat to the madness. What up, YouTube? Big Jim here, coming to you live from New Orleans, Louisiana, down here in the French Quarter at the French Market Inn Hotel. I just checked in, and I'm actually in town, meeting up with a bunch of buddies. We are here because it's Mardi Gras, and I've never been to New Orleans, never been to Mardi Gras. I don't even think I've been to Louisiana before, so not sure what kind of trouble we're going to get into, but if you'd like to follow along and see what it's like to visit New Orleans your first time and get a little bit wild, a little bit crazy, a little bit drunk, this will be it. Okay, so the first stop on the adventure was just a few doors down from the hotel at the Crescent City Brewhouse. This is where my 10 buddies who had flown in were all hanging out after their flights arrived. We all came from different parts of the country, Chicago, Columbus, San Francisco, Portland. It was great to see everyone. It was like no time had passed.
Look at you, buddy. Good to see you, man.
From there, we headed over to historic Jackson Square to try to catch our first Mardi Gras parade.
My first hurricane of the trip.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's good.
This was February, but it's New Orleans, so I was expecting it to be a little bit warmer than it was, but the wind was blowing and it was freezing on Jackson Square. Well, we were down at Jackson Square for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, and it was so cold there. I had to come back and put on an extra t-shirt, a sweater, and a hat. I had no idea that New Orleans would be this cold. Anyway, party on. I made it back to Jackson Square just in time to catch the parade. This parade was organized by the Krewe of Cork. Crews are social clubs that organize parades, balls, and other parties during Mardi Gras. This one had a marching band, people dressed in crazy outfits, floats, even a performance by the Baton Rouge Beignets dance troupe. There's a really great website that provides a schedule and descriptions of all the daily parades throughout Mardi Gras. It's super helpful. I'll post a link in the description so you can check it out. And if this video helps you out, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more cool travel videos and guides. It really helps me out. After the parade, we grabbed a few beers and headed back to our hotel, the French Market Inn. If you're looking for a hotel in New Orleans, I highly recommend the French Market Inn. It's very nice. It's in an awesome location right near Jackson Square, Café du Monde, walking distance to Bourbon Street, but far enough away from all the madness so it's not super crazy and loud. From the hotel, we headed out again because we had dinner reservations at a fine dining establishment on Rampart Street called Palm and Pine. Palm and Pine serves a diverse menu of Southern, Mexican, Central American, New Orleans cuisine, as well as creative cocktails, and it has a cozy atmosphere with a pretty cool vibe. We opted to reserve the private dining room in the back so we could hide our general debauchery and untoward behavior from the other guests, which in hindsight was a pretty good idea. I can't remember everything we ate there, but it was all delicious. We sampled their menu, had corn babies, catfish, P&P salad, butter beans, rib tips, Wagyu beef, and of course cocktails like the Sazerac and a delicious assortment of IPAs. It was a wonderful dinner and I highly recommend the Palm and Pine. After working up a thirst at the restaurant, we all crammed in Ubers and headed east of the French Quarter to an area called Frenchmen Street. Frenchmen Street was originally known as a hidden gem for locals who enjoy live music, but it's probably just as touristy as all the other areas now. Still, it's definitely a neighborhood to check out with lots of cool live music venues, bars, and awesome nightlife. We started out the legendary live music venue DBA, where we caught an authentic New Orleans brass band. I can't say I've ever really been a big fan of horns, but I was definitely enjoying this. Eventually, we wandered across the street to another music club called the Spotted Cat, where we caught another band, which was also awesome. New Orleans, as you would imagine and hope, is definitely one of America's greatest music cities, right up there with Nashville and Austin. Every band we saw was top-notch, most of it free too. I think the Spotted Cat was the only bar that even made us pay a cover. At this point, it was about 2 a.m. and I'd been awake for almost 24 hours because of my early flight from California. I was drunk, running on fumes, and it was definitely time for me to grab an Uber and head back to the hotel. That was the end of night one. Day 2 started with the unrealistic plan of grabbing a quick breakfast at Café du Monde, but as you can see from the line, that didn't work out very well. So we headed across Jackson Square to the corner Oyster House. I was suffering from a low-grade hangover, so I started my morning with some hazy IPA and coffee, and then moved on to the most delicious red beans and rice I've ever had in my life. After breakfast, I walked across Decatur Street to check out the mighty Mississippi River. I caught a glimpse of a cool paddle wheeler called the Creole Queen that was slowly rolling on the river. Some real Mark Twain and John Fogerty stuff right here. From the river, I took a nice stroll through the French Quarter and ended up on Bourbon Street to see what it would look like before it descended into chaos later in the day. While I was up there, I actually ran into Jerome, who had picked up beignets from Café du Monde. I'd never had one before, so I got to experience my first beignet. Beignets are kind of like chewy donuts covered with powdered sugar, a legendary New Orleans treat.
Like a donut.
If you've ever Googled New Orleans, you've probably seen a picture of this beautiful old building. It's called the LeBranch House, and it's supposed to be haunted by at least 2 different ghosts. It's at the corner of St. Peter and Royal Streets if you're looking for it. Outside the LeBranch House was another top-notch band providing a beautiful soundtrack to a lovely Saturday morning in the French Quarter. Sometime after that, I caught up with the crew again, and it was time to get back in the saddle. So our first stop was the Saddle Bar in the French Quarter, basically because it was the first bar we saw. It was kind of a goofy place with saddles for bar stools and beer pong, which is always a great idea when you're starting a long day of drinking. From the Saddle Bar, we wandered around the corner to Bourbon Street. It was almost noon, and so we dipped into the first bar we found with live music, called the Drinkery. Again, there was another top-notch band playing free music. The Drinkery was not free, though, and it was interesting that the price of beers doubled in just a half-block walk. They were about $4 at the Saddle Bar and then $8 at the Drinkery, which was still cheaper than back home in San Francisco. After a few drinks at the Drinkery, a few of our crew wandered off to see another parade, while the rest of us headed deeper into the belly of the Bourbon Street beast to find some fun. Given that there was a tragic terrorist attack on Bourbon Street just a month before we were there, I was actually kind of surprised that you could still drive cars on Bourbon Street. I thought they would have ended that. I've always wanted to hang out on a Bourbon Street balcony, so we found a bar with a balcony called The Swamp and ventured inside. The Swamp was a fabulous college meat market type dance club that hadn't quite warmed up yet this early in the day. Inside the Swamp, it was pretty much a dump, as you can see, but there was a nice view from the balcony. The balcony itself was actually pretty sketchy. It had kind of a slight lean, and you could feel it shaking with just a few people on it. I really wouldn't want to be out there at night when it's packed with 100 drunk college kids and they're dancing around and it's shaking and moving, because it didn't feel too safe. All over Bourbon Street, there are these fake monks who try to scam people by trying to get them to buy beaded bracelets. Shane actually found one of these bracelets and messed with this scammer by trying to offer it to him first. He kind of didn't know what to do. At this point, we walked back to the Drinkery and found the other half of our crew now on the balcony. Bourbon Street was starting to heat up, and it was nice to have this entire upstairs of the Drinkery all to ourselves for a while. I didn't expect to hear an America cover on Bourbon Street. After a quick break to eat a shrimp po' boy, which is a traditional New Orleans sandwich, we backtracked back down to Bourbon Street to get back into the mix of things. Shane and I must have decided that we wanted belly aches, so we ordered a pair of these hand grenade drinks that they sell everywhere on Bourbon Street. Radioactive green and sticky sweet, they're supposed to be the strongest mixed drinks that you can buy on Bourbon Street at about 24% alcohol. Not sure about that, but it definitely got us drunk. Bead necklaces are the official currency of Bourbon Street, and you'll see them being tossed from balconies at all hours of the day. It's common to see old people on the balconies with an armful of expensive and elaborate beads distributing their wealth by tossing them down to the beadless youth in the streets. Although pretty young girls are usually the preferred target, bead throwers will still occasionally toss one to deserving middle-aged men like ourselves, if you make enough commotion. The old Absinthe House has been pouring drinks for pirates and presidents at this location since the early 1800s. When we walked in, we were so thrilled to see our alma mater, Ohio University Bobcats, randomly playing basketball on TV that we had to celebrate with one of their famous absinthe drips.
Fuck Oyster. But I am NCCER certified, so we're good. We're good.
This drink was a fantastic idea following that hand grenade.
Like drinking black licorice.
The old Absinthe House is a must-visit bar on Bourbon Street. From there, we wandered down Bourbon Street to where it ended at Canal Street and fought our way through another parade. We were in search of the historic Roosevelt Hotel so that we could have a drink at the Sazerac bar inside the hotel. The Sazerac drink was actually invented in New Orleans and is thought to be the first or one of the first cocktails ever. The beautiful Art Deco Sazerac bar dates back to the 1930s and really served the best Sazerac I've ever had. This was a nice little break from all that lowbrow drinking we were doing on Bourbon Street. Check out this historic nicotine-stained mural, providing a little glimpse of what life was like back in the 1930s. Okay, back to Bourbon Street, now under the cover of darkness. The barriers were out at this point, so cars couldn't drive down Bourbon Street, which was reassuring. We stopped to check out another street band. This one was a marching band. I could feel that bass drum thumping in my chest and the booze thumping in my head. One block from there, another excellent street band. At this point, we were starting to get hungry again, so we dipped into the gumbo shop on St. Peter's. The gumbo shop has been open since 1948 and is consistently awarded as the best gumbo in New Orleans, which I guess makes it the best gumbo in the world. Gumbo is a traditional New Orleans okra vegetable soup, and we ordered multiple variations. Each was better than the next. Definitely the best gumbo I've ever had. We were somewhat close to the hotel at this point, so we decided to go back there and regroup and figure out what we were going to do for the rest of the night. Of course, we stopped and grabbed a window front beer from the brewery next door.
What did you find, Shane?
Sometime around midnight, we all headed back out to Bourbon Street for one final last round of punishment. While we were there, I paid a photographer $5 to take a Polaroid of us. I can't say for certain, but we may or may not have stopped at Rick's Cabaret. Well, as you can see from my bead collection, it was a very successful evening. The few of us who were still alive at this point ended the evening with drinks back at the hotel. This was the end of day 2. Sunday morning, day 3, I was definitely feeling a little rough. It also started raining. Most of our crew flew home that morning, but my flight wasn't until 7 p.m., so I had some time to do some sightseeing. I decided to take another chance on Café du Monde. The rain must have scared everyone away because there was hardly a line. I waited in the to-go line for about 5 minutes and grabbed a bag of their famous beignets and a cup of café au lait. They've been serving this beignet and coffee combo at this location since the 1860s. In hindsight, though, I should have just gotten a table because the beignets are covered in powdered sugar and super messy. It's actually really hard to eat when you've got your hands full with coffee and a camera. From Café du Monde, I walked toward the French market and stumbled upon the historic Central Grocery. Open since 1906, Central Grocery is where the famous muffaletta sandwich was invented. The muffaletta is a huge Italian deli sandwich stuffed with ham, salami, mortadella, Swiss provolone, and marinated olive salad on a muffaletta bread. I got half a sandwich for $18, and I could barely eat it all myself. It was huge and delicious. I wandered back into the French Quarter and through historic Jackson Square, where in 1803 the French handed Louisiana over to the United States as part of the Louisiana Purchase. On the edge of the square is St. Louis Cathedral, the oldest cathedral in the United States. It was open to the public, so I wandered in just in time to catch a glimpse of Sunday Mass. After the cathedral, I was getting mighty thirsty, so I headed in the rain back up to Bourbon Street for one last beer and some live music at Crazy Corner. From there, I met my buddy Sam at the Royal Oyster House for char-grilled Louisiana oysters. They were topped with Parmesan butter cheese and grilled to perfection. And that was it. 2 days, 10 guys, and more memories than I can probably piece together. New Orleans didn't just live up to the hype, it completely redefined it. The city pulls you in and spits you out a little different than when you arrive. I came here to see if I could keep up, and while New Orleans definitely won, I'd like to think I held my own. Until next time, Big Easy, and there will be a next time. If you enjoyed this ride, hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures. I'll see you on the next one.